Okay, hey Ian, happy Monday before the July 4 holiday for those of us in the United States, les États-Unis, or whatever, Estados Unidos. And just happy Monday for everyone else. This is just some anonymous cola diet, I believe, for the working man. All right, I'm going to try to share my screen, which always seems to be a little bit of a challenge. I just have my laptop, which has been hanging in there. You never know. It's lived a long, I don't know if it's really a long life, but I worked this guy pretty hard. Monday after Canada Day. Yes, happy Monday after Canada Day for those folks. I'm going to try to share this window over here, and then hopefully you guys will have questions and thingamajigs. There we go. Where am I going? Boop. Yeah, so I am creating a map that I'm going to use, and I just thought for kicks, I'm using an area, a what's the word I'm looking for? A geographical area that's sort of near and dear to me. And actually, I am hidden within one of these. Is where I am right now. This is what's known as Berkshire County, Massachusetts, called the Berkshires. No relation other than the fact that the people from the Berkshires in England probably named it, or somebody named it, as many things are, especially in this part of the States, named after English stuff. This is the Berkshires. It's a series, as you can see here, a series of valleys, or kind of hills, and then the areas between hills, which I guess are valleys. A fair amount of water, lots of little rivers, and a lot of wetlands. Also, one of the things you can't tell from here, but of course I know because while I'm here, I see it all the time, is the amount of wetlands going on. Kabuki Kid, hailing from Somerset County, New Jersey. Oh, well, you're not far away from my usual stopping grounds of Brooklyn. Yeah, lots of stuff named after English. Yeah, English. I mean, in New York State, you get a mix of English and Dutch, depending on where you are. Like the Catskills is Dutch. Of course, New Amsterdam became New York, so on and so forth. And there's remnants of native names as well. For instance, this major river that's coming through here is called the Housatonic, which is derived, I think, as an English translation, or I don't know, what is it called when they not alliteration, was it transliteration of a native word from the folks who were here originally? I don't remember what it meant. But one of the things that's interesting, so this map, so I just found this map, and I started doing some work over here earlier. I found this map. Where did I find it? Well, this was just, I think, a Google image search, or I think DuckDuckGo image search. And one of the cool things, so this is from 1830, I think, and you can see there's these railroad surveys, but basically, other than the railroad surveying, there's no railroads yet. I find this interesting too, just as a way of presenting. So I would have thought that the major roads would have been double lined, but actually principal roads have a straight line and then dots, which to me does not, I don't know, that just doesn't read to me as major as when you have the double lines, but whatever. Another kind of neat, just interesting thing is they obviously found it reasonable or important for folks who would be using this map to know where your ore beds, furnaces, and forges are. Of course, nothing would not occur today, but it tells you what's important at this point in this county, that they're making this thing's map. What's important? Where's the rail going to be? Major roads. Where are you getting your ore from? And of course, you got to know where your nearest church and academy, rather, and then your towns and villages. But it's sort of interesting, kind of what they list here. Hey, Gashrin. The other thing, too, is my understanding, I was first hip this to by my cousin who lives in Boston, is that right now, if you were to come through here, It is extraordinarily green. It's all green, 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 green. And then you have these little towns kind of blip in there, and they're farms and things, but it's lots of forested. All these hills are all pretty much forested, which makes them beautiful. And that's a lot of the Berkshire's economy revolves around the natural beauty that's here. There's a lot of arts now also, but the natural beauty of the hills. The interesting thing is that the area now is probably at its most forested it's been since essentially it was uh, colonized, or I don't want to say settled, but basically taken over by the British, or British and then Americans. Because throughout the 19th century, all this stuff's getting cut down to make all these towns, all these buildings that are here, all these forges and academies and churches and all these towns, everything, all that wood. And of course, if you're running furnaces, all the stuff for that, all this industry that's being built up over this first industrial revolution and into the second industrial revolution is coming from all these trees around. So then by the time you get to, I want to say like the late 19th century, I remember seeing they had a few years ago, they had a kind of like a 200th anniversary or something of the area, some anniversary of the area, and they had photos. There was a closed storefront, and what they did, they blew up some of these photos, and there were some photos of the hills. These hills that now look so beautiful, and they look like, oh, they've been here forever, and oh, this thing, and you look at them from 100 years ago or 120 years ago, and it's like there's barely a tree on it. They're bald. It looks like someone had the Tunguska a blast from 1902 had happened, right? It's just all been depleted. But somebody really smart in this area, or I assume multiple people, figured out it somewhere along the way to preserve this greenery. They must have seen ahead of time or gotten some inklings once stuff started to grow back that, hey, this is going to be important. So a lot of the stuff is protected, which is nice. But I don't know why I don't really have a point to that story other than I thought it was really fascinating how you look at it now and you must think, wow, look how beautiful it is. And it's how it's always been. And I'm sure it was this point at one point, but then around 1600s, 1700s, Kabuki kid correcting me, 1908 for Tunguska. Thanks. How it had gone from something that would probably look like it did today, then to something horrible, and just in terms of deforestation, and now it's kind of it's back for the most part. Obviously, there are towns and whatever, but it pretty interesting sort of transformation, then untransformation, kind of transforming or retransforming. But anyway, one of the why I'm using this is one. I think it's just a nice exercise to look at look at your map, whether it's a hex map or otherwise, and then look at kind of places that are you may appreciate, because I love this area. I have history here with my family. I've had a lot of relatives that have been through here, so I have a natural appreciation of the area. I'm familiar with it, which helps in terms of just thinking about it. And then I thought, well, it might be fun to kind of convert this to sort of a hex map kind of thing. I think for this map, and I think I'm going to do 1 mile hexes for this. The scale of this, we don't get a real scale. We just get this thing over here. I'm guessing these are miles. And I say that because the distances between some of these places I know are not that far. Like, I think from some of these places, well, maybe it's not. I don't know. Wait, let's see. I mean, I could pull up a map and actually go through it, but can't be. It's not less than a mile, so that can't be just a 1 mile marker. But if someone said it was 6 miles or 5 or 6 miles, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, maybe that 4 would be about to there, and maybe 8, something like that. That kind of makes sense to me. The only thing that's interesting is that the modern roads pretty much follow the same aspect. So this main road, this is from 1830, it was already a main road, is basically right here. This is Route 7. as it stands, and I think it pretty much follows it just about precisely. Let me see. Well, it kind of combines these two because I believe Route 7, we're here at Stockbridge, comes down like this, sort of cuts over, but it's pretty neat, I think, unless it's down here. That's what's up here. Where's Great Barrington? Is Great Barrington here or is Great Barrington here? That's Alford's over there. Is it saying both? In any case, it's kind of cool that in this 1830 map, you can kind of make out where the modern towns are. Now I'm gonna have to do some stuff. Pittsfield is the capital of Berkshire County. So I have that. I'm just kind of roughly marking out things. And I'm not trying to be exact. Obviously, with hex maps, I can't follow all these exactly or precisely. But I think one of the reasons why I'm choosing 1 mile for this is just because I can show some variation. Because I think if this were 6-mile hexes, it would just basically be forested hills, just a whole block of forested hills with some things in between, some rivers, and then things. So I'm doing the 1 mile hexes so I can get some of this detail in, since that's is kind of the more or less the scale. But I'm not worried about getting it precisely. I just want to kind of nail the big things. The other thing I thought was neat about using a map like this is we have all these essentially township borders, and of course they're using all these straight lines because they can, but they do give you hints at where you might want to place kingdoms or any kind of principalities or duchies, whatever. They give you some indication of where you might find borders if you want to use them. Now, we couldn't use these. I wouldn't want to use these straight lines because they just don't make sense. And I think up until the modern world with modern surveying, or you're talking about a desert or something where you can really just draw straight lines, you're going to follow natural boundaries more or less. But I think we could still get an idea of, oh, well, maybe this, if Tyringham were a small kingdom, maybe it would end maybe at the river or maybe at these hills. I don't know. We'd have to play around with it. But I kind of like that by having this breakout of the townships as they existed then, it sort of gives this impression like you have all these kingdoms. You have all these kingdoms, or whatever you want to call it, whatever they end up being for you in your game. So I have Pittsfield is marked on my map there. So I've done some parts, and there's lots of little rivers, and there's a lot of wetlands. I don't know where all that stuff is by heart. I'll probably have to, and it's interestingly, well, this kind of map, I some of the maps, they get super busy, and it's really, I find it anyway, hard to pick apart anything. Here they just really give you the hills, the roads, and anything. They're not interested in giving you any kind of greenery. Now, I'm going to be using, for what I don't know, I'm going to be using what I see, which is farmland around the settlements, and then combinations of wetlands and a forest, essentially. And then I'm going to be kind of curious to see what we get. And then maybe I'm not going to use, so I have a whole map here. I'm not using this whole one. I just kind of brought it in just to give myself, I probably should have done this in the center had I been thinking straight, but I wasn't. So it's over to one side, but that's okay, because I really don't intend to use, this sliver here is basically what I want. I don't mind it. I may mock up some mountains. I don't know if I need it. I don't know if I need it. Mountains, I like, well, there's a couple of reasons I like valleys in general, and I consider this sort of the Berkshires is sort of similar to Hudson Valley. There's other hills and valleys, is they give you, especially when you're starting off, they kind of give you a nice, I think, area with some kind of natural boundaries that can be isolating in some ways, which I think is good. Give you sort of a natural setting of, okay, here are these mountains that kind of block things in and out, and then hills and forests, as opposed to something that's wide open. So for someone like me who might think, well, if it's wide open, I kind of want to know, well, what's beyond that? What's beyond that? The mountains, I think, for my brain, give me a little bit of, okay, here are my my blinders for, I'm I'm going to stick within this mountainous areas. But you can see the mountains. There's obviously the Appalachians are out here. Over somewhere off this map, over this side is the Hudson. And then there's obviously more hills and things. The New York side of this, nothing magically breaks. This, I'm just looking at because this map is of Massachusetts. But if I were just going to have a satellite type map, this kind of country persists for a bit on either side. I think leading up to the Appalachians, somewhere way over here. And I'm not sure. I mean, eventually you get to Boston. This might be, I guess you're slowly from this side. I think you're still going up. Because I want to say, you can't see it on this map, but somewhere, let's see, where am I looking? Somewhere over here. I think like basically right up here somewhere. It might be closer here. Anyway, if you could, the Mass Pike basically cuts across here. Somewhere like this. And somewhat off this map to this side is the highest point on the Mass Pike. And then there's a sign. Hey, bullet catcher, happy 4th. It's the highest altitude on the Mass Pike. It doesn't mean necessarily that these are lower, but maybe I get the sense that it's probably for transportation reasons, trying to stick to as even a grade and as least amount of altitude as possible. But I wonder if there's not kind of one more sort of hump and then it slides down, because if you keep going, basically you hit the Boston and the sea, and the land does kind of level out more. The hills kind of more or less give way, I feel like, to more flat plains, maybe slightly. I don't know. All right, so here's Pittsfield. So I'm just going to work and talk to myself and to you. Well, not to myself, to you guys. But if you have questions and things, I'm here for you. That's why I'm doing this. Just to reset, I'm using this map of Berkshire County in Massachusetts because I'm familiar with it to build a hex map. I'm not trying to fill this whole thing. I'm probably just going to fill maybe not even this column or these columns that I'm showing. And I'm using this map because I'm familiar with the area somewhat. And like I said, I think it's kind of neat to see what it was like back then, knowing what I know now. And I don't know, I think it's a cool area, and I love all these hills. There's lots of room for shenanigans up in these hills, I think. But I am using a 1 mile hexes for this, I think. That's kind of the scale I'm thinking on. I could change my mind. I mean, certainly one thing you can do is the Berkshires is not super huge. If you really liked, or whatever area that you're like, but it's a smaller area, you can blow it up. Use those same features. Now they're just writ large. Now the Housatonic, which is a pretty small river, all things considered, not, you could easily throw a stone across it. It's not any great shakes like that. Suddenly could become like a Mississippi River, and this could become a major part of a continent. Obviously, that's up to you. I'm going to keep it small because, as I've mentioned before on streams about hex crawls, especially starting out, I think having something that's small, easier to manage with lots to do, to me is preferable than huge spaces, especially if you're going to be having lots of hexes. You see maps where you could take, I don't know, it seems like a slice the map as you could slice my hex map as you see it, a third, and it's all one terrain type. And it just seems, even if it makes sense geologically, it just seems kind of boring. Then you got to think, well, how am I going to fill all that stuff with hill things? Whatever, like already, like I have a bunch of hills, but I'm going to try to manage those in groups. So I'm going to be more concerned with these units of hills as opposed to individual hills. So that way it's not, oh my gosh, I got to make 3 things for each 1 mile hex. It's no, I'm going to treat essentially like these hills over here is kind of one thing. Maybe this will all be one piece with a valley in between. This is one piece, which is kind of what you get. You think of, where's let's see, where's a landmark? Hold on, let me zoom in here a bit. Over here, well, I guess this is one kind of mountain. They have Monument Mountain, which is a hiking destination. You know, it's not necessarily one peak, but it's kind of a, I guess, like they show on these sort of a ridge line. If you're in the area, it's a nice hike. Used to be free. Now you got to pay, but the money helps support everything. So I don't begrudge them charging a little bit. Well, I got to get down there first. Where was Pittsfield? Pittsfield is my basically, and I'm just roughing it out. I'm not trying to be exact. Not trying to be. There's a town over here, Hancock, which is kind of up. Maybe I'll throw Hancock. And one thing I found, I don't know what you guys is, what your procedures are, but I'm kind of going back and forth between what I put in, what things are. So I'm not just going through and doing terrain and then lakes and then settlements. And the reason is because I'm trying to match these. I need things. I feel like I need landmarks to kind of draw me. So since I actually started with the river, I think, and then I was thinking, okay, so the river passes through these kind of mountain areas, great, and then it's like, oh, where these things meet, there's a town here. So I started plunking, towns down. It looks like there's some more river here that I might need to. I think I need to extend this river, which I will do. Oh, it's a shape. And I'm in Worldographer, Hexographer 2. I'm snapping the grid. I just got I just using the river preset, but I'm changing the width down to 20. I don't know, I find 40 too much. Maybe it comes out of the hills like that. I don't know what to do with these lakes. So I can make I guess I gotta make a polygon. And I can fill it with that same. Oh, I do have it. Excellent. So I can color fill it. And I'm going to put it. Do I want it? It's going to. Well, I guess it's going to fill the whole thing, isn't it? It's going to. All right, that worked. That worked. Hey, Krister. So I got that lake, which is this. There's another town here. Oh, I got that town. And then we have that town over here. There's Pittsfield. There's another town. Let's see. Did I miss something? So here, I might have, because this is the swoop of these hills. Seems like there's another town there, but there's also more. So there's river coming out here. And this is sort of like this. I wonder if I need to put more. Maybe I need to. Maybe my baby, I need to. Well, let's see. Let's delete that. How do I delete it? I said delete. My keyboard's dark, so I gotta get where my key is. Nope, that didn't work. I delete that. All right, I'll just put blank on top. There we go. Okay, and I'm gonna move those hills up one. Move those like that. Actually, maybe. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I got to do that. I know, and I shouldn't worry about it because I'm not even trying to be exact. This way I can just put. Does it make sense for that? Maybe it does. Maybe this is where Dalton would be, kind of. All right, I'm gonna put it there. I'm gonna put it there. I'm gonna let it ride. This is where it's gonna be. I'll have to upgrade some of these towns. I'll need more walled towns, but probably Pittsfield will still be whatever I'll end up naming Pittsfield will be still the main guy. Well, I can do this. I know that river's coming. And it's sort of splitting. It's doing something like that. Something like that, right? And then this is Dalton now. It's going up towards Windsor. Windsor and Hinsdale, everybody. It does seem to kind of bypass. Whoops. And we'll put Windsor kind of right where. How does that look? How doth that look? I think that looks okay. We'll plunk Windsor down right here. Something I just noticed. They show this road just cutting right through, and there's no. I know there's no blasted through. I haven't blasted any tunnels through here. Bullet Catcher asks, how do I handle hunting versus foraging in wilderness play? That's a good idea. I mean, I will tend to, so I'll abstract it to some rolls of the dice, depending. The system I'm coming out with will have some more detailed mechanics. I tend to be a little bit more ad hoc now with what is the terrain. Are you in forests? Are you in sort of places where there's a lot of wildlife? I'll let the party if you're a class like if you I don't have one currently, but say I had a ranger type, even though it's not listed as sort of a ranger skill, I'll give them a bump. And right now I would just kind of default to some kind of X and 6 with some chance that they'll encounter something else. So something like if 6 is like jackpot, you see the deer in a classic hunting film. You look across, you see the deer dipping its head into the grass and coming up and is blissfully unaware, and then you take your shot. Might be a 6. 5 might be deer sign or some kind of spores. An animal, some chases of the animal you want. Maybe you don't want a deer, whatever it is, or foraging, whatever it might be. You find traces for in a foraging system. It might be that you see scat that's got the berries in it that you're looking for. It leads you to go, aha, there must be berries this way, or there's a trail, whatever. It gives you kind of sign. And then maybe on a 1 would be something horrible is here. 2, you find trace something horrible, which would be just a wandering creature. Not necessarily something horrible, but might be 1 kind of wandering creature ambush type situation, or at least you're an encounter distance situation. And then 2 might be trace of same, and then 3 is just bubkiss. But I'll sort of I would adjust those. That's why right now it's kind of ad hoc. If I'm in a desert situation, I might use a much larger die, maybe a D10 or a D12, but with the same things. And then, like so for grasslands, it might be a D6. Woods, maybe a D6, depending on how I feel, or if I have some specific idea, maybe a D8. I don't actually know in terms of real life if it's better for hunting. Are you more likely to run into stuff in grasslands than you are in the forest? It probably depends on which ones, but I just think of forests as being more difficult because you have less line of sight. It's harder to, I don't know. I just feel like it's harder, but I don't know that for sure. And then roll some dice. But for me, I always think of it's a long thing. I don't go with the arguments if anybody makes the arguments that like we're just going to go out and hunt like as we travel. I mean, you might get really lucky, like when you're driving. We're driving home the other afternoon, and there's plenty of deer just hanging around by the side of the road. Great, but for the most part, I look at those as you are taking time to do specific things. So you are spending time and effort, which means you're whatever units of time you're using. If you're using something like a march or a watch that's 3 or 4 hours long, that is at least the unit you have to use to go out and hunt. You can't do it in 5 minutes. And I have no problem with it being difficult because oftentimes hunters, even experienced ones, when it's not like leisure hunting where they've set up things to draw. A player in my game was trying to explain to me because I was kind of going through a similar spiel like this in my home game, and the player's like, yeah, but I have a friend of mine and he goes out, whatever. And so I was like, okay. I was like, well, tell me more. Like, because he wasn't a hunter, but he was like, well, a friend of mine does this stuff. And I was like, okay, tell me more. He's like, oh yeah. And they, they've got the spot and they plant all this stuff so that the deer come. Like everything is sort of engineered in a way to bring the deer to the hunter. And so we got through all that because he was trying to say like how you could do it relatively quickly. I said, great. How long did it take for your friend and whoever other, of their hunting group, whatever, to set up the blinds in the right, find the right spots to set up the blinds, then plant these bushes or things or the salt licks or whatever for the deer? Like how much did all that effort did that go into time versus now he's able to go and do this, still probably spending 3, 4, 5 hours. How much time investment was put in there? And then he kind of chuckled and said, fair enough. Because like a lot of stuff we do, it's like, yeah, because we're sort of, we stack the deck and do things. We're not just walking out in the woods to do stuff. And, watching those shows like Alone, when they've got bows and arrows and they're all supposedly outdoorsmen, how hard it is for them to track down game, even when they first just got in the place. Forget when they're starving and they have no energy. But even at the beginning, like, it's hard, especially if you can't do it for a long time. So I have no problem with saying that I probably stack the deck a little bit against the party in terms of what it takes to hunt and gather. If you're not going to spend a fair amount of time doing it, you start to add the time on, then that will sort of reduce things. Because if you're spending time, like you're in this one hex of woods, you spend enough time there, you're going to eventually find, assuming there are game to find, you're going to find trails, you're going to find things, you're going to find watering holes or wherever these things go to. And then you can start to narrow your scope and set up. And so eventually you can get to a point where, okay, we can, if there's something here to catch, we got a good chance of catching it. But oftentimes in my experience, party doesn't have that kind of time or doesn't want to spend that kind of time, in which case they'll either just take a flying, well, we weren't going to travel that much anyway, so we'll take a flyer on doing it now, or they pack what they need. And hopefully not run out. But if bullet catcher, if it's soon, I have a system. I mean, if you watched my working lunch streams last week, the system I have in place there will be a bit easier to mechanize some of these things in a standard way as opposed to kind of my ad hoc way. But I hope that answered the question. I don't get too much in the weeds to it. I don't ask somebody to role play it out unless they want to. I mean, if they have some specific skills they want to bring to bear, like they know about hunting and they want to talk through it, I'm fine to do that. And I'll if they know stuff, I'm happy to say, they know the woods. I know woods like the back of my hand, and here's where you go. It's like, oh, great. And you still got to find those things, but I have no issue, in terms of like the metagaming part of it. Like I feel like as these adventures, if one of them says like, oh, I did that in real life and I can apply that, I'm generally not going to go with the, well, your character doesn't know that, unless they're like, and now I'm going to invent gunpowder. Oh, we pass a cave. I'm just going to go ahead and spend a few days, a few hours crafting gunpowder. I happen to keep saltpeter in my pocket all the time, and I got this. Then I'm going to go, okay, no. But that's basically how I do it. Long story made way too long. Hopefully that makes sense. You can just use, if you're using D20s, obviously you can up the difficulties that way. I like having kind of the crit fail concept. Low rolls, something bad is either happening. Good rolls, something good is happening. And the middle, whatever that is, tends to just be nothing. You can keep trying, and I'll give you a bonus or somehow kind of work it out to lower the numbers, or turn around and go back to camp. Hey, Dean Pal. All right, on my river front here, we've got, this is, what did we decide? This was Windsor. This is Dalton. We've got more river coming down, so I'm going to go back to the river. Did that make sense, Bullet Catcher? Let me know. Arrows and Homer says, crit fail a hunting roll and you become the hunted. Yeah, that's not a bad way to do it. Absolutely. I'm just gonna zigzag it. Like I said, with this map, I'm not trying to be absolutely to skate. I'm not trying to. What's the word I'm looking for? I am not trying to be precise. Maybe I'll put that little lake in there. It's interesting with this Hinsdale is I wonder why this is because almost all these towns are almost all on water. But Hinsdale and what is this? There's a town. I don't even know this town called Peru. This one's up in the, I mean, I would guess, I like this kind of, maybe I'll have to call it some kind of Badlands or something. Look at all these hills there. I don't think that's actually what it is. I'm sure it's just more wooded hills, but I love having different kinds of, oh, there is some water coming. Okay, so maybe I gotta, hold on. Maybe I gotta do this. All right, maybe there's a lot of water here. And D-Pal says the Heroes of Homer just wants to put his players through the Predator again. Hey, nothing wrong with the Predator. And then that, what was it? Predators actually was pretty good too, oddly enough. I don't know why I said oddly enough. I mean, it's not like it has to be bad, but it was interesting. So I'm going to do this. Oh, whoops. Shoot. No, why are you? No, why are you? What? No. What did you do? Okay, that's what I want. Now, I haven't seen Prey yet. I haven't seen Prey yet. I don't know. I was just kind of torn on that one. I'm not sure why. Because I think conceptually, I dig it. But for some reason, I don't know. Whoops. I don't know. It just didn't. Is it giving me the line? What am I doing? So I want to be. I guess I'll go backwards. Stop doing that. What are you doing that? I'm going to do this, 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 this. I'm happy with my lakes. Ironcaster says, Prey, 5 out of 10. I hear you. I mean, I'll check it out. I don't. I'm interested. I'm interested. Just, I think it's already. I mean, stuff goes to video so fast these days that it's. I almost feel like it's just so easy to wait. I'm gonna make another little skinny lake here. There we go. I like these lakes. So then up here, Windsor's over here. Got that. There's another piece that kind of comes down. There's a little hill here. All right, so I'm going to put that hill in since I'm here. And it looks like sort of does. Oh, no. Whoops. Wrong thing. No fill. What's the original Prey? Hey, Brian Smith. Mowing the lawn. That's one thing I haven't had the pleasure of mowing the lawn in a while. And no, I'm not suggesting I want to. But more power to you. Good luck. And Brian Smith, I'll get back to you about what we've been discussing. Sorry, I haven't gotten there yet. I'm just going to make that a bigger kind of funky hill. In hill, Worldographer doesn't have a great. I mean, it's not Worldographer's fault, I guess I should say. What I mean is that sometimes for the terrain, I'd love something else. So I'm going to kind of use this as a placeholder, this yellow background hills for kind of more rocky ground, because I'm kind of liking that this could maybe be some kind of, I don't know, maybe Badlands isn't the right word, but some sort of rockiness. And then Hinsdale is going to be right over here. Hinsdale. So let me go make let's see, that's a feature. So it's not far off. And then there's Peru. I don't know. I might have to look up what the heck is in Peru. I mean, Peru, Massachusetts, not Lima, Peru. Ironcastle says the biggest sin of Prey was coming out at a time in which virtually every actor franchise was doing female-led version. That's probably true. I'll say this, something that, and this is not necessarily, I don't want to say it's like it's Prey's fault, but I really, and this is true for, and I don't want to say I just feel like this way about female actors, because really with male actors too. I want the actor to seem like they could plausibly do the thing they're being tasked with doing. And I don't remember enough with Prey if that was the case, but I know sometimes in the action movies, you get these people in the leads who are supposed to be, I don't know. One of the examples that comes to mind, and it happens to be another Predator one, was I think it was Alien versus Predator. And one of the first things, they go recruit that lady from the Arctic, and she's supposed to be just some, you just think like, oh, she's been out here in this like Arctic tough. She's going to be super tough. And she looks like she's a model. I mean, she's beautiful. Of course, she's an actress. But that they didn't see anything to be about that. I was like, wow, it just didn't feel to me like this person's been sitting in the Arctic the whole time. And certain actresses are very beautiful who can pull it off. Like I think Charlize Theron in that Mad Max does an awesome job. Angelina Jolie does it. Sigourney Weaver does it also. You buy them. You buy in. And then and it's not, and again, actors too, other actors of different sorts, you sort of look at them and you kind of go, seriously? Like Adrian Brody actually surprised me, because I think that was one of the things that maybe I avoided. I think he's in Predators, right? Because I just didn't think Adrian Brody, sort of tough guy, but he did a pretty good job at it. But just sometimes you see these actors and you're kind of like, really, it's really your thing. I think it's harder. Michelle Rodriguez one, and she's and there's a bunch, but it's interesting. And I kind of wish maybe getting more MMA types, like get more just people that look like they lived the life that you're saying in the movie they lived. And I think for studios, it's probably easier to, like, what is the equivalent of putting a beard on Kurt Russell in The Thing, to make him seem kind of Arctic out, shaggy hair, full beard and stuff, to make it seem like, okay, this guy actually could plausibly live out here. Because you can't do that with a female actor, and you probably wouldn't want to, because you probably want her to be pretty as a draw to the film. I don't know. It's interesting. I can't remember what the lead who was in Prey, but I always kind of feel that way about actors. Like I'm looking at them like, he's really doing that? Do we have some kind of Underdark? I don't want Underdark. Heroes and Omen took personal enjoyment of the French Canadians in Prey. Were there some French Canadian trades folk walking around looking for beaver, buying beaver pelts? Kabuki Kid liked Prey. I haven't seen Prey. I haven't seen it. I got no dog in that hunt. Do we not have it? I went to Classic. Maybe Classic doesn't have a kind of Badlands. I don't really. I guess it's. I think I'll just use the hills. That's fine. Because I don't really mean it to be dead. I just want to sort of indicate that's rougher ground. And I want to kind of keep some of these gaps in here. But I don't know how to do it. I might not be able to. I might. Well. There's maybe like that. I guess that's a pretty good approximation. I'm happy with that, I think. Oh, someone mentioned the Prey video game. Oh, I don't even know about the Prey video game. Or maybe I've seen it. I haven't played like a super serious video game in a while. I mean, I want to. I don't have a modern console anymore. All right, so we got some funky hills over here. What else? Okay, so this is Windsor, and I got to keep moving that river along, and there's another band of hills coming out this way. Well, let me see. Where's the wind? What is the? It kind of takes a loop. Sort of does a loopy thing. Oh, there's two different preys. Yeah, I guess that's a problem with you name your something so simply as prey. Very easy for anybody to just hook on to whatever you're doing. Oh, so this goes through the hill, interestingly enough. Definitely hear my... Whoops, what did I do? I goofed that up. The scale, I'm definitely going to be playing a little bit fast and loose scale, but that's okay. We'll do like that, and I'll put some more hills. Go back to my wooded hills. The wooded hills of my Utes. And please feel free to ask me if you got something you want to ask. I'm there we go. Kind of goes through there like that. Please ask me stuff. Don't let me just ramble on about. I mean, I'm happy to talk. Well, I'm not happy to talk about the Prey thing. I'm happy to read your comments about Prey. But having no experience with it, I don't have much to offer. Let's see. Heroes and Homebrew says that they like Worldographer, but sometimes its usability really frustrates me. Yeah, I really wish that it could really use a refresh. I totally agree with you there. Totally agree. Totes my goats. You know, I just assume, well, I don't know. I don't want to assume anything. But yeah, I think that's I don't want to say it's holding it back. That seems too much. But I think if they could do, like, there's little things. There's just little things. So for instance, this sidebar area, there's no horizontal scroll bar. This things just disappear. So you have to bring it out. Maybe I don't even know if you can undock them and move them around. So as a usability thing, I can find myself having to work in this small area because I want to split the screen, have my map on one side, and I want to have my hex map on the other side. But then I have to cut my hex map almost in half. There might be another way to do it, which does it differently. So it could just be ignorance on my part. And I know that we're doing all these things with vectors, and so we can do kind of cool stuff, but it can make it very unwieldy. And you have to all these different commands that you have to sort of figure out with the what does what. I have to go to select, and I've had a lot of things. Some of these, like these things will join together, which I guess is good. But then if I realize I goofed on this and I go delete it, I'll lose my entire river. I don't know if there could be some selection there. There's probably features that I'm missing. Also, Kabuki asked if I've seen Indy 5. I haven't, but I've actually heard good things about it, which I'm going to admit I'm sort of shocked by, but pleasantly. I mean, I'm not trying to. I want good movies, so I'm certainly happy that it's good. I had no idea. So I'm glad to hear it. But yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, here's Homer mentions the undo button. Yeah, the undo button can act funky. Sometimes it's exactly what you think, and then sometimes it seems to go off the rails a bit. So yeah, I certainly appreciate that because I've had it. I've had my share of frustrating experiences with the what is this up here? They call this Savoy. There's some kind of settlement here, kind of on the curve. Oh, I'm gonna put one there. Where? Let me just go zoom out a little bit. On Long Lake. Or I don't know what that lake's called. They didn't name it. Interestingly, the settlement, maybe that's not a settlement. Maybe it's something else. But I think it is a settlement. If I come back here, yeah, those are villages. It is a village. Unnamed village that also has some kind of furnace. That's probably some interesting thing to track. I would love to get more in the weeds on when you're playing in a sandbox. I mean, I have done this in my game and I enjoy it. Maybe players wouldn't otherwise, but I don't like. I think maybe the best way of putting it is I am past the concept that every town has everything. So I like the concept of differentiating between settlements. So for example, these villages don't have shops. You don't walk into this village and like, oh great, the adventurer shop is here, and oh great, the whatever it's here. No, this is villages. This is all farmers and farming things, and I'll probably have to add some in because obviously even by this stage probably there's not a lot of fortresses around here that I could draw from, though I think somewhere here they do talk about there being some kind of skirmish, I'm sure, with Native Americans. Where is it? Did I see it? I thought I saw something. There it is. 1787, there was a skirmish. So this is 1830. So probably at this point, we're past the War of 1812. We're pretty much past where we're concerned about having forts here. Anything like that. So I will have to convert some of these or add some in. But the idea that every village is like this, I don't know, trading post for adventurers, I don't go with. And one thing that I like about that approach is it forces you, if you're wondering, well, how do I get the party to travel places? How do I get them to become familiar with the area? But if they have to travel to go places to get stuff, then there's a reason for them to travel. If they're sitting on their hands somewhere and you're like, boy, I got all this stuff over here, but they're over here. Well, maybe they can buy iron ore because maybe they can buy some, I don't know, pig iron or whatever up here because there's a forge here or something, and that's what they're doing. But they got to either take the river passage if that's navigable, or take the road, and they got to go somewhere more major, or they have to go to maybe the villages hold a rotating market every week. So this week it's somewhere else. So you got to travel. And I think it then builds up towns and then later cities as important places where you can get things, or you have to go to get things that you can't get in the village. And that's why people are hitting the road and going to towns. Kabuki Kid says that Indy 5 was a better end of the franchise than Crystal Skull. Well, that is great, because Crystal Skull, I could not I didn't have a lot of tolerance for. It's weird which stuff will bother me in terms of films. There's obviously lots of things that get Hollywoodized, but I don't know, Indy getting in the fridge and surviving the nuclear bomb at Los Alamos just seemed too much, even for an Indiana Jones film. Though I had forgotten until I saw it again not that long ago, Temple of Doom, where they jump out of the airplane into the raft onto the side of the mountain. I had forgotten about that, so that might. Can't say they hadn't done some goofy stuff before. Here's an Homebrew says one town might have a general store, and the next town over might have a blacksmith. The next one might have only healer. Yeah, I've gotten to the point where in my new games, or the way my new configurations, only towns will have shops. What you're going to find in villages is your raw materials, and folks are going down the road to the nearest town to get their knife sharpened, or not sharpen their knives, but get a new knife or things like that. There may be something. Maybe if there happen to be a bunch of iron right there, maybe there'll be a blacksmith right there. Maybe there's a local lord that whatever has do before. But I'm villages. I'm moving, which is what I read somewhere. That's kind of just in terms of nomenclature. That's sort of what separates villages from towns. A town is a place that's centered around trade and commerce, whereas a village is set around sustenance, farming, agriculture. So when you call something a town, you're saying that this is a place, at least in English and probably different languages vary, but the idea of it being a town was that it was around commerce and stuff, and they would be supported by villages. So you'd have a town. You couldn't have a town out in the middle of nowhere. You have to have a town surrounded by villages that could support the town with food. I mean, much like we see nowadays, we have cities, and then you have farms outside cities that ship stuff in. Kabuki Kid says, I love they did a Mythbusters about that raft bit from the plane and decided that was at least somewhat plausible that they could survive it. Interesting. I didn't know that. I'll have to look it up. I follow, or I watch a lot of the tested stuff. But it's been a long time since I watched any Mythbusters. Maybe I'm going to look up. Do they put those online anywhere? Does one of the pay services have the Mythbusters library? I wonder where you can go to watch those. Because I don't even know the last time I saw a Mythbusters on TV. And Adam Savage is who I mean for tested. I don't know, for some reason his last name escaped me there for a moment. Okay, so we've got, this is Peru. We got Hinsdale, and then Windsor's up here, and I know things don't quite match up, but I'm okay with that. We have this unnamed settlement here. I know things, and then over here was, hold on a minute, I gotta scroll over. I don't know, do you feel like there's a shape? I kind of feel like there's a shape of things, and I like that there's so many waterways, because that will definitely help with borders. Did you copy paste that from IMDb or something? So Sling TV, Freestream, Philo, Prime Video, or Apple TV. Okay, I think I've got at least one of those. All right, that's good. So we have Pittsfield's back here. This is Dalton. That means this is Cheshire. That's Lanesboro. That's New Ashford. That's Hancock. Okay, good. I want to get a little bit south. Got those lakes. Oh, I got one more. I can put another river, which would be, doesn't quite get to Peru. Put it in here. That's probably another thing that's interesting, is how many of these waterways there are. I'm wondering maybe if we don't put enough waterways. Now, granted, this is not a wilderness or a pure wilderness. And maybe one of the reasons why it is so heavily settled is because it has those waterways, and some other area that has very few make it a lot more difficult. I'm not sure if it's a chicken or the egg thing. If I'm looking at it going, wow, there's more waterways than we think in this area because this is because of how it's settled or what. But Kabuki got it from the Roku. Okay, I don't have a Roku, but I've got some of those Soyvices. And of course, I think it also because the scale is shorter. If you were to go to a satellite map and zoom out, you'd probably only see the Housatonic, I would bet. Speaking of the Housatonic, we got Pittsfield. Let's see. Where were we? There's Peru. I don't know why I love Peru. Where is, okay, so that we're supposed to be, so where's the join? Oh, so I got to join these two up. Just do that here. Join that. What did I say? That's Dalton. So I guess here we got to start cruising this down. 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 Gosh, my scale's all messed up. That's all right. Really more the flavor. Here's what's happening. Let's see what happens in the undo. See, that's just weird. That's just weird, man. Now, and here's the thing. Like now to see, here's the thing. So I want to drag some of these out to fix it. And Brian Smith, you've got moles in the backyard. Good gravy. I have a memory of my dad and my uncle beating a groundhog to death. I didn't really watch it directly, thankfully, but it was not a fun experience. Not something I look back. There we go. Okay, at least I fixed it. Not something I look back at with fondness. But my grandmother had a garden. This is my grandmother's house, and my grandmother had a garden. And you know, you have a garden. The woodchucks are not your friend. If you're a gardener, I'm actually running out of real estate. Well, I'm just gonna have to. I want to get at least some of this down here in there. So I'm gonna have to just. It's gonna be a little bit off in terms of life, but that's okay. So we're gonna hook. And I like using the borders of the hexes. Shoot, do I need to undo again? I like using the borders of the hexes for the rivers because I think they just make great borders. No. What are you doing, man? Wonder why it takes that little zigzag over here. Over here where it sort of does a little loop-de-loop. Just, I know I can't really do it perfectly. There we go. There we go. Who did Nightbot get? Oh, bam! Bullet catcher. Kabuki Kid says that they've been seeing the clip they did of the tanker vacuum implosion. Oh, yeah, because the Titan. Yeah, I felt really bad about that. But then you read about I obviously feel super bad for I feel bad for everybody. Okay, but I guess I have less sympathy for the owner because it seems like a lot of this stuff were issues that they created, basically. And maybe it's fitting in some way. I don't want to say it's fitting because I don't want anybody to die. But, you know, the captain went down with the ship, so to speak. But then other people went down too, especially the kid. I mean, if my dad was like, hey, man, I was 19. Hey, even now, my dad was like, hey, you want to go see the Titanic? I'd be like, yeah, heck yeah. You know, I would have done it. And I probably would have thought for the amount of money and everything it costs you that, like, I would have just been like, well, of course it's going to be fit and everything. And look at what they're costing. But obviously it didn't cost enough for them to do things properly. And and I get it, you're trying to make this something, and so you're looking and go, well, I can't have people spend $1 million. They won't do it. I mean, probably some people would still, but that's what it would cost. But they didn't listen to their engineers. They didn't listen to a lot of things, and and this is the thing. It's always somebody's got to die. Like, why does it have to be that somebody has to die? Like, that's how things happen, right? We had the famously New York City had, I think it was called the Shirtwaist Fire, where they were locking these women in these factories to work, and it caught fire, and of course they couldn't get out, so they all burned alive. But that caused a lot of changes. But you would think common sense tells you if there's fires, you need to be able to get out of the building. Locking it is not an option, but we didn't think that way because we're like, well, because some idiot owner was like, well, I got to have them. I don't want them shirking off 5 minutes early, so lock the doors. Ultimately, it's because we collectively are idiots. I suppose that's the bottom line. Poison worms? Yeah, Kaguki Kid says, yeah, the 19-year-old kid. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's rotten. It is rotten. Okay, what do we got? Yeah, Brian Smith pointing out some of that James Cameron, who was going on a lot of the shows, was saying is that, hubris caused both that, Titanic caused by hubris, a Titan caused by hubris. Like, yeah, unfortunately true. All right, so Pittsfield's here. Dalton's here. Not quite where it's supposed to be. That's okay, but I need Lee. I'm gonna put in the curve because this is my world and that's where I want it. And Stockbridge is gonna be. We'll put it on this side, and then Great Barrington. We'll put. Would you think it would be on the same side? Because I know Great Barrington's on. I mean, all the towns are now pretty much on both sides. If I had to pick one, I suppose I'll put them all in a piece. And then maybe at the bottom of the map, we've got Sheffield. Like that. Yeah, Kabuki says they put the stoplight after someone gets hit by a car and killed. Yeah, I mean, we just can't think. Everyone's always we can't think enough about the stuff until it is too late. And then suddenly, oh, we got to fix it. We got to fix it. Oh, man. All right. Well, we've gone to the hour. There is a possibility. So this is my last night for a stretch in Studio B. I'll be back in Studio A tomorrow. There is a possibility. So there won't be a stream tomorrow. Independence Day, going to do stuff with the fam, driving, all that stuff. I might come back and stream tonight. If I do, it'll probably be late night and then also probably no warning. And I'll probably just be continuing to work on this. Heroes and Homebrew asked if those are 1 mile hexes. You can see that it would be possible to travel from one town to another and back again in one day. You're right. Yep. These are 1 mile. I'm doing this on a 1 mile hex scale. And yeah, and these towns, the Berkshires has just packed with tiny towns. It's not, it is not old enough in terms of these European settlements to date back to the Middle Ages, obviously to Renaissance colonial era. But I think similar things apply. People are having to get around. Yeah, I mean, they just all, and you can see the things, right? So almost all the towns, except for, I'm sure there's more, but there's that. Where's Peru up here? Peru up in the hills here. Maybe I'd make that one a fort. Either that or there's a church there, and it doesn't say that there's a forge or something. So, but I'm assuming it's a high point, so maybe I'd make that some kind of fortress castle. But yeah, you can definitely see the kind of distances, and then using the river. Now, people don't use the Housatonic, at least in this area. I've taken some canoe rides. I don't remember exactly where on here. And the canoe was tough. I much prefer the kayak. Canoe seemed really easy to tip over, though we didn't tip over. I wonder if in olden times these were more navigated. There's some, I'm not going to call it rapids, but it moves depending on the water level, how much water, it can move pretty good, and there's some rocks and things, but it's not, I wouldn't call it like a gently flowing river at this point, but you can imagine folks using the river or, the roads. Anyhow, so I do want to put some more work into this. If I can come back to it tonight, I might, and if I can, then I will stream it, but probably zero warning. I'll just hit buttons and go live. Other than that, folks, have a great, if you have the holiday tomorrow, have an amazing holiday. If you don't have it, just have an amazing day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.